So you're probably wondering, what are the real benefits to meditation? And what happens if you meditate for a long period of time? What will happen to your brain? Will you be levitating? Will you turn into Ultra Instinct Goku? What will happen to you? And so I'm really going to dive deep into what happened to me and my experience meditating for long periods of time and what I found when I was meditating for long periods of time. But first, we have to know why I started meditating. The reason I started meditating was because I wanted to become more spiritual. I wanted to see if astral projection, the fourth dimension, if I could tap in with spirits. But not knowing whether or not that was really true, I ended up dropping it, doing it from time to time. But then when I tore my Achilles in basketball, I couldn't play basketball anymore. But as I was playing basketball, I wanted to gain a higher level of intelligence. And also, when I was playing basketball, I wanted to stop the distractions and the urges. So I told myself from now on, because I ruptured my Achilles, I basically couldn't even work out anymore. I was like, because I can only stay still, I might as well meditate till I become enlightened and until I find the truth of this world. That was my goal in meditation. And did I acquire it? The first thing I really started to notice when I started to begin to meditate for long periods of time, from the very beginning points in the time I even figured out what meditation was that you get totally different benefits. And that's one thing about Buddhism that's very important, is that the benefits, nothing is necessarily positive or beneficial or helpful in Buddhism. And so in my experience of this meditation is that I remember in the beginning, I was getting better at focusing, my mood was improving, things were overall becoming better. But as I started to do it for longer, this could count into play that other parts of my life started lacking. I stopped working out. I started eating a little bit more unhealthier. I was jerking off a little bit more. Those can count into play for sure. But what I will say is that when I was meditating for longer periods of time, I actually didn't see any increase in my focus, or I actually didn't see any increase in my mood. It was only for the first few months of my meditation that I really started to see a benefit in my mood and focus. My mood and focus really didn't change all that much the longer I did it. So I think when it comes down to meditation, it's just something that you do maybe like 5 minutes a day, because when doing it for longer periods, I didn't see any benefit in my mood or my focus. I only saw those in the beginning. And on top of that, the knocks and the taps that you hear in like the beginning, all the dark stuff, and like your mind is bouncing everywhere. Your mind still bounces when you get to the later phases and even the longer phases of meditation. You overall get used to it, and your relationship changes to the bouncing, and your bouncing becomes more, I guess you could say it becomes more organized. So it's more like your brain is starting to think in things you like to do. Like mine would think in like, oh, think about this video game. Then it would think about a YouTube video. Then it would think about a Twitch stream. Then it would think about journaling. Then it would think about enlightenment. And then it would think about how I'm not doing good enough. It would jump more in an organized way instead. So that's one thing, is that the beginning of your meditation all the way up until however long you do it is two completely different experiences. I want you to cut out any of the propaganda, the bullshit that you know for meditation, from the or when Tien Shinhan is meditating, or when Jiren is meditating and they have an extreme aura around them. Most of that is actually not true, or for the most part, it's not provable. So with keeping in that theme, I just want to tell you guys straight up, meditation is not magical. It is a completely normal thing to do. It is intuitive. It's not intuitive, but it's a normal thing to do to help with thinking. Well, it doesn't help you. You know what I'm saying? Meditation is not meant to help. You know, the Orientals asked the monk, "What are you meditating on?" He's like, "I'm not meditating on anything." And so it's so important that, you know, what your meditation is just, it's like play. It's purposeless. It's so unexplainable. It has no meaning. You know, it's so weird. It's totally just a different thing. That's what people need to understand. Meditation, it can help you. It's good for you, but it's not necessarily supposed to do that. And so that's something that I've experienced with meditation, is that it's not magical. It's just you focusing on your breath, and you know what I'm saying? Your mind starts clearing as you focus on your breath. When you focus on the real world, just this crazy, wiggly, wonky ass world. And that is something that is so important about meditation, is that it's just this purposeless thing that you just do. And like when you do it, you don't acquire really anything special. And honestly, it's very, I guess you could say, pessimistic, because you know, you're supposed to get these spiritual habits to break through suffering and acquire a new perspective on life, but meditation actually didn't really do that. It's doing that, but it's not directly doing that. You know, it's so much more factors into it. But yeah, meditation just straight up isn't magical. Nothing about this thing is magical. It's just completely normal. You still need perspective. You still need to switch your perspective. You still need to experience the real world. You still are going to have urges, and not much will really change. But what will change is you. When starting out meditation, it can actually be very scary. And I mean, very scary. You're going to have a lot of freaking voices in your head. A lot of things are going to be creeping up into your mind and just honestly destroying it. One of the things that creep up into my mind, the voice of God. And so I remember when I was 14, I started really questioning the entire world, really started to question the thing. And I was so fucking afraid, because every time I would question it, the voice of God would be like, "If you leave this religion here, you are going to hell." And this voice would constantly creep up into my brain. And I was just so afraid of it. When meditating, all those voices that of religion, they start to clear away. The only voice that you really start to hear is, well, I'm gonna get into that, but the voices that you hear, there aren't really any godly anymore. You know, you're more so trying to figure out why that voice is ever even there in the first place. And so this game, your mind starts to play this game of hide and seek in a way. You know, your whole perspective is starting to change. Everything is so weird. You know what I'm saying? You have to figure out the truth. You don't really know what it is. There's pseudoscientific beliefs. There's scientific beliefs which suck balls to hear, but they're so true. And it's just a lot of crazy things. But life is just gonna have a whole new meaning, just an entirely new meaning. Everything is gonna feel and seem totally different. And honestly, there's gonna be no pinpoint to life, meaning that there's not gonna be no specific religion that says this is the one that's going to save you. And it's just you know, there's no exact pinpoint. There's no really any hard definable facts of that specific belief system. You know, the only facts are the facts that are in front of you. And that's scientific beliefs. And this actually is really hard to do. And that's another video in and of itself. But it's very hard to stop believing in things you previously believed in. It's so hard to do this still. You know, it's like ripping yourself apart. It's just so weird. Hopefully I have an answer to that later on in my life, but I probably do not have one. I probably won't have one until a very long time. So that's gonna be a different one in and of itself. This is the point in the video where I actually make a huge controversial turning point and a huge, I guess you could say, hypocritical statement. I actually don't recommend you guys should meditate for long periods of time. I actually only recommend that you should meditate for 10 minutes at most. Like at the very, very most, an hour. And that's it. And just do it consistently for 5 to 10 minutes a day. Keep it that simple. Because one thing that I very much experienced during these long periods of meditation was I experienced extreme headaches. Like I would have huge, even till now, I still experience them. The headaches are absolutely ridiculous sometimes. You know, I can't even work out. I can't do anything. All I can do is just sit there. And like, it gets super uncomfortable sometimes. And honestly, I think that it's a product of this is obviously other parts of my life. Yes. But meditation, I think, is one of the core components to this problem, because I feel like I wasn't getting these before I started meditating, and I only started getting these after I started eating unhealthy and meditating, of course. So I really recommend that you guys should not meditate for long periods. You guys should just relax, take that, just do 5 minutes, because scientific studies show that meditating for long periods of time don't actually improve your focus. However, it's not the fact that you can meditate for 20 hours and now you can focus for 20 hours. No, it's that you're meditating for 20 hours. Meditation, you start daydreaming, and then you come right back into the focus of your breath. That is the core component to meditation, is not how long you do it, but how many urges you get and you jump back from. Just like how the quote said, it's not about how hard you get hit. It's about how hard you get hit and keep moving forward. Another reason why I can't recommend meditation to you guys, or long periods of meditation to you guys, is because you will actually feel less motivated and a little bit lazier. So the reason for this is because you start to lose a sense of purpose in life. Meaning that if you previously had a sense of purpose in life, it's probably a false meaning. Your brain probably already knows this. So meaning that when you see that, or when your brain sees that, you begin to start thinking about, what is our purpose in life? Because you realize that most of the religions, they're not really true in terms of the real world. And so like when you start seeing all these different belief systems and you start switching your brain and these multiple different avenues of thought processes, you're like, this world is truly wiggly and wonkily. Like you're just like, what is this world? And you're trying to see, man, what is my purpose after all? Who am I really? And you always asking these questions. And so it leads you to feeling less motivated to try things in life, because you're over here thinking about who you really are. What is your purpose? And so that's one thing about meditation I just don't recommend, or any sort of stepping out of your beliefs. Why it's actually pretty good to actually stay in your comfort zone, believe it or not, because you will actually feel more motivated staying in your comfort zone and staying in those belief systems that you already have, so that you can acquire more money and help the world out, help out the world with your goals, help out your family with your goals. And that's why I don't recommend you trying this until you're in a very safe position in your life, meaning that you don't have to focus on school, you don't have to focus on money, you don't have to focus on being at a job. Because when you start meditating, it feels like your body is trying to figure out the truth once and for all. So it just sort of takes you these different routes of stuff, and it just takes you everywhere, honestly. And you don't know where it's really taking you. And you just gotta honestly go with the flow, because you just don't know. You know what I'm saying? It's like the first time in your life where it's like, I don't really know what's gonna happen to me. So that's something about meditation that is truly important, is that it will make you feel a little lazier and less motivated, believe it or not. And so the only thing that you will feel at that point is just doing and not doing, but in a really bad way. And it's like you just don't have a soul anymore. It's a little weird. Everything becomes a lot more wiggly. So I would only recommend trying these meditations until you're like ready to go and ready to do this. Your life is already established. You're good. I feel like that's just the best time you should do this, because doing this right now for myself, I can confidently say It was not too great, but I ended up finding my way through. But this was truly just a big thing in my life, and it really took different turning points. You are not your thoughts. Remember how they talk about your thoughts becoming much more quieter when you start to dabble in meditation? Well, yes, that's true, but you actually just become more aware of your thoughts, So actually, the voice in your head it will get quieter, much quieter, but after a while, it will stay at this certain point. The voice in your head is gonna it's gonna go from like here to like here, and then it's just gonna stay here, and you're just gonna hear that thing all day long. You're going to sit there and just hear that voice in your head all day long, talk about absolutely nothing. And so you just become more aware of problem. You can't actually stop a problem from happening. You know what I'm saying? You just have to change your relationship towards that problem. That's how problems get solved. Because honestly, the voice in your head, you can never stop that thing from talking. You can't ever really stop it. You can't control it. And your outlook on life changes. So it's really hard to even control yourself. Even as I'm speaking right now, I just have a totally different perspective on me speaking now than how I was speaking 3 years ago, 4 years ago. It's a totally different perspective. And so in keeping with that, I'm just trying to let you guys know that the thoughts in your head will become much more louder and you'll become much more aware of them. However, though, they will still control you like no other, So you just really need to sit here and just stay in the real world, do the right thing, keep doing the right things nonstop. And hopefully your life will change in a different way because that's how the thought system works, man. Your thoughts they're going to keep bothering you regardless. You just have to, at the end of the day, hope is a distraction, but you just got to hope that your body finds a way. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm hoping for. But at the end of the day, the thoughts, they're going to continue to distract you. You just have to even as of right now, thoughts are continuously distracting me. But what am I doing? I'm making this YouTube video. You just got to keep doing what you got to do. And hopefully life will change. So this one is a bit of a theory to me. This one here is that our sense of time starts to change. So our sense of time is really wonkily and wiggly all over the place. Like they tested a few people in the woods for 21 days versus people, I think, just regularly living life. And the people in the woods say I think they were in there for 20 days or 21 days or 30 days, I think. And they said those 30 days felt like fucking 5 months. But the people who live their life regularly, the 30 days felt like shorter. Much shorter. It felt faster. Everything was faster, because our sense of time, I feel like it has to do with our nervous system and our emotions. So the reason why I think this is because I feel like our nervous system and our emotions, they don't have a sense of time. They don't know what 24 hours is. It just does things. It just keeps doing things. It just keeps handing us emotions. And so I don't even have a great sense of time. Some people do, but I don't really have that well of a great sense of time because my emotions, they just tell me what to do. And so I'm not too sure about our sense of time. Like you just become so unsure. Time is something that you just don't want to waste because it's the most valuable thing in the world, but also your perspective changes so much on it. Like these last few months of my life have been the fastest months of my life ever. I literally just wake up, it's 2:00, and then 9 hours later, the day is pretty much over. And it's just like, wow, even when I'm doing the most uncomfortable things, my day just goes by so quick. And it's just such a weird thing. And I just really wanted to touch on that because our sense of time, you truly just don't know time. And so you become more aware of your emotions instead of time, instead of anything else. You just become more aware of the voice in your head. And so that's something that you really must know about the sense of time and meditation is that when meditating, it could feel like you're meditating for an hour, but really you've only been meditating for 20 minutes. And again, meditation, like, it's the same thing. Sometimes it produces a lot of dopamine, sometimes it doesn't. It's like working out, pretty much like anything you've ever done. So, this one is actually going to be a little bit funner and a little bit funnier too. And with this part, I actually improved in video games. You know, back when I first started talking, I was really shocked. And I just wanted to say that I wasn't shocked, but I was expecting this type of improvement, but I really did improve in video games. There were actually some video games where I haven't played in a while and I got a little worse at. So the video games I started improving at were shooting games and this specific fighting game called Brawlhalla. I started improving a lot more in those video games. And I overall just improved in video games. Like, I'm just much smarter when I play now. I do smarter things. I focus more on outsmarting my opponent rather than constantly spamming the same thing. Back when I was playing basketball, I would spam the same thing, but it wasn't like, it was predictable, but it was very quick. But I was trying to get much smarter, and the goal actually happened in meditation. Just by a little bit. I overall really changed my perspective. And so with shooting games, I remember before I could barely track my opponent. Like, I could barely even track them. And now I'm just tracking them in such a crazy way. It's absolutely insane to me that I can now track my opponent in such a way. It's just unbelievably amazing, you know. And so even with fighting games now, I make much smarter decisions. You know, I can finally beat people that are way better than me. A game that once felt very uncomfortable is now pretty comfortable. And I can just play that game like literally for like 4 hours a day sometimes. And my goals, like, when it comes to actually focusing on them, I can't say that I always have a specific goal in mind, but when it comes to actually just grinding through things in general, I typically have a way better mindset on it now. And I guess you could say that, like, the thing I probably did not improve in and got like probably a little worse at was constantly grinding and suffering, which sounds so insane, but like, it feels harder for me to suffer now. Like, it feels harder for me to, you know, really do those push-ups, and sometimes it's harder for me to really stay in training sometimes. My head starts hurting and stuff like that, and it's not because I'm bitch made, or nothing like that. It ain't nothing that. It's just like, it's harder for me to do that sometimes, but my IQ has gotten better overall. Like, I'm overall, you know, outsmarting my opponents much better. But when it comes to the training aspect of things, I'm not just training all day. I can do that, but it hurts a little more. And so the game that I got a little worse at was Fortnite, because I haven't played it in a very long time. And when I came back to it, I was a little worse. I couldn't perform the same retakes anymore. And it's crazy that, like, I don't perform the retakes I did 2 years ago, but nowadays I'm performing some of the retakes I was doing like 5 years ago. So that's like really, really insane. That's one thing I've really noticed, is that my body is now just doing retakes I've been doing like 5 years ago. You know, it's not really even focused on retakes. It's just more so focused on the opponent and like what he's doing, you know. So that's just something to really know about this aspect, is that meditation, yes, it did overall improve my gaming. It also, can I say that my studies are better? So, have my studies gotten better? No. I'm not going to sit here and say that now all of a sudden I've been meditating for these long periods of time that I can finally do a calculus equation, an extremely difficult one. I still need to study for that. I still need to obviously go back and do the work. Now, did it improve this? Yes, it actually did, but I would say that it can only align with me if it's actually something that I'm willing to push toward. You know, just like how anybody else, it's just like, if you're willing to push towards, you know, becoming a college graduate, you know, graduating and getting your bachelor's degree from College of Engineering, then you will be willing to end up passing that calculus course, or willing to pass a science course, or whatever course that may be. A lot of things now, I would say that my studying has overall decreased. This is something that has actually decreased. And the reason I'm saying this is because nowadays it's very hard to study for a test, because the point of knowledge in my brain now, it's not to study for a test and then pass and then forget about it. It's to remember it and cherish it and pass that on to other people. And so now I'm much more intrinsically motivated with the things I really want to do. So I've been actually having a very hard time in school. Now, like, that's why I said earlier, working out and suffering became a little harder because it's hard to just thug out something that, like, I genuinely just do not feel like doing anymore. It feels completely useless. And so that's why when it came to studying or video games, it's just things that I do in the moment, like play, like gaming. It became smarter. I'm much smarter in it. I play much more differently. I became a little smarter, but I play differently is the main thing. And then when studying, it actually became a lot more difficult because sitting here and studying for something that I do not care about in any way, shape, or form is just super difficult. Because even though calculus may be true and, you know, they may use it in science for some experiments, it just doesn't align with anything that I am trying to do right now. It won't help me figure out a lot of the things that I'm trying to do right now. And so that's why it's just best if I leave it for now, and maybe in like 4 years, I'll go back to calculus and probably want to learn it when I'm rich or something, or when I've become successful on YouTube. And I'm just killing spare time by learning some calculus or science or whatever the case may be. But yeah, my studying overall decreased. And now we have reached the most important one of all. Your sense of self. Who you are. Or who you thought you were. That is going to completely change. From family members to the way you view friends. And this is the most important one because this is going to trip you out. You know, from the time you were a kid, you had this viewpoint on everybody. Maybe it was extremely positive. Maybe it was this way. Maybe it was that way. I'm telling you right now, it's all going to change when you start meditating, especially the viewpoint on how you view yourself. Sometimes you'll have days where you look around you, you see your family members, and you're like, these are the same people that I grew up with from when I was literally a little crap. Like just a little thing that was full of so much ideas and just so much positivity. Even now I'm still filled with positivity, but you were filled with positivity, some negative energy, and like that's the same family you grew up with. Like you just have a whole different viewpoint on yourself. The self is just such a hard thing to conquer because in Buddhism they talk about there's no self. And so if there's no self, what is being reincarnated? If there's no self, what happens? Like what happens when I die? If there's no self, who's doing evil? So it's a very, very confusing topic. I'm not going to get into it. I'm not saying that Buddhism is wrong, or I'm not saying that I'm right. I don't know anything. I don't know. Really, I just don't. But I'm just telling you what I've experienced in this meditation journey is that it's the most important thing that like you, who you think you are, is going to completely, it's like the allegory of the cave. And the allegory of the cave, you have these men showing you shadows of what you think is a tree, of what you think is a bird. Then you go up, you escape the cave, you come out the cave, and then when you see the sun, this is what the real world actually looks like. And it's burning the living shit out of your eyes. It's so hard to even see that. And Taekwondo talked about this. Shout out to Taekwondo. He is the motherfucking GOAT. And then when you finally get out the cave, you see what a bird is for the first time. You see what a tree is for the first time. You see everything for the first time and what it actually is. And you come back to that cave, theoretically, if you could. You know, I'm just going off the story. You come back to a cave and then you try to enlighten your family members and tell them how things actually go. No, that's not how this works. This is how it works. And they're still just stuck, like just stuck in their ways. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to do it. And, you know, that's another thing. Not only that, but you watch everybody around you and they haven't even changed. No, they have changed, but they haven't changed like the ignorance. They haven't got rid of it yet. And sometimes that can suck because your whole life you've been doing this. Your whole life you've been pushing your fucking ass off till it burns, bitch. And then, you know, your family members, they're just not doing shit. They just don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. You feel me? I don't care. Is that my problem? Being enlightened? And it just sucks. It just sucks that, family has to view it that way. But yeah, that's what you're overall going to experience when meditating for long periods of time. I don't actually recommend this in your life now. Maybe later on in your life when you have everything situated. But many things are going to happen throughout your life. I've probably forgot a lot of the things in this video, and I'm sorry if I did. I probably got a lot of things wrong in this video. If I did, please let me know in the comments below. This video, it took me a while to make. I made a lot of cuts in it. If it feels inorganic, please let me know in the comments. I've worked my buzz out for this. I'm trying to aspire to become an even better YouTuber than before. And another thing about the self, by the way, is that you're still going to cuss. You're still going to be a completely normal person. You're still going to get angry. Things like this are going to happen. You're just going to have a much better management on it. And the idea of yourself about like Raphael and all this Donatello and Leonardo trash, all that stuff, it's not going to happen. Like, you're not going to be a naturally angry person. You're going to have a totally different viewpoint. And that's going to leave your mind blank for a minute. But yeah, I feel like that's all I had to say for this video. I genuinely love y'all if you have stayed here for this long throughout the video. I think this video is going to average out to probably less than 30 minutes, a little less than 30 minutes. So thank you guys so much for watching this thing to the very end. I appreciate everything. If there's any problem, let me know in the comments below. But without further ado, I hope you guys have a great rest of your life, and your family does too, and the world as well.